Dollar, I understand you're probably the best private eye in the business.
Well, I try to make a living as an insurance investigator, if that's what you mean.
Well, what I have in mind does not exactly come under the heading of insurance investigation.
Oh, then if you'd like me to recommend somebody to you.
But then again, it might.
What?
Does the name of Sarah Balderston Barling mean anything to you?
Yeah, wait a minute. The old dollar dealer owns about half of the Southern Connecticut Water and Power Company?
That's right. She's a very important client of ours.
I thought you said this matter doesn't involve insurance.
It doesn't. Yet. I hope you can keep it from doing so.
Oh, now look, if this is one of those bodyguard assignments...
No, it isn't. And incidentally, in addition to your expense account, there'll be a sizable fee for your services.
Oh? Well, why didn't you say so in the first place? How much?
$5,000.
$5,000?
But if you think perhaps I'd better get...
Don't even think of it, Mr. Wakely. I'll be right over.
Bob Bailey in the exciting adventures of the man with the action-packed expense account. America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Eastern Liability and Trust Company, Home Office, Hartford, Connecticut. Following is an account of expenses incurred during my investigation of the only one but matter. With a $5,000 extra fee dangling in front of my face, expense account item one, naturally, was $1.10 for a cab to Fred Wakely's office in the Gregson building downtown on the square.
Glad you decided to take this on, Doc, after I mentioned fees.
Yeah.
Sit down, please.
Yeah, thanks.
Any other money, huh?
Well,
I suppose I can't exactly blame you.
Mr. Wakely, if I ever reach the point where I can turn up my nose at $5,000...
I mentioned Mrs. Sarah Balderston Barling.
Yeah. And as I understand it, she's one of the wealthiest people we
Well,
have.
it's really her daughter that we're concerned about, that she is concerned about.
Oh, I don't
Name
know.
is Truda Lynn Barling.
Truda.
She celebrated her 21st birthday about a month ago.
Oh, yeah, I remember. That big brawl the old lady threw for her must have made the headlines all over the
That
Eastern
brawl, as you call it, was engineered by Truda Lynn herself.
Yeah, and as I recall now, the police had to put on a couple of dozen extra men to keep things under control. Champagne flowed like
The
water.
cost of that party, including damage to the hotel where it took place, must have run to $30,000 or $40,000.
Then this Truda Lynn must be quite a gal. I'd like
It
to
was
meet.
typical of many such incidents in the life of Truda Lynn Barling. Young, wealthy, completely spoiled, and completely rebellious against her mother's recent attempts at discipline. Well, to put it mildly, she's been quite a problem. Life at home with her mother has been one continuous battle. There's been about as much love between them these past few months. And believe me, Dollar, it's been as much her mother's fault as it has been Truda Lynn.
You mean for spoiling her so badly in the first
Yes.
place?
You see, her mother's only interest in life has been in adding to the fortune her husband left her.
Oh, what has happened, Fred?
5 days ago, Truda Lynn simply packed up and left for parts unknown.
Oh?
And I'm certain it was more than mere coincidence that young Harvey Howard also...
Who's Harvey Howard?
Harvey is a worthless young playboy who's been trying for some time to marry her, and very obviously only to get his hands on her money. Also, Lucy Taylor left town about that same time.
Who is she?
One of Truda Lynn's playmates. A young social climber who's been practically living off her for the past 2 years. Over Mrs. Barling's strenuous objections, of course.
So the three of them have just cut loose to run off and have a fling, huh? Any idea where they might have...
Dollar, you've got to find the girl. Somehow bring her back here.
Yeah, well, now, Mr. Wakely, if she's 21.
Otherwise, my company stands a good chance of losing the literally millions of dollars worth of insurance policies of her mother's.
Yeah, but look, even for a $5,000 fee.
We'll make it 10. And must I remind you that it's hardly your place to question the reasons for an assignment given you by one of the companies you've agreed to serve?
10,000, huh?
Yes.
Okay, I'll see what I can do.